April 7th, holy moly, 2.15. Super exciting. I'm excited to be here doing this new thing for me and checking in. It's Moon Day, and we're 5 days from the full moon. So in moon time, we still have some times to build, like what you want in the world. When the moon is waxing, it's a good time for that. And I have not been sleeping well. I don't know what's going on with the energies of the sleeping, but I am usually not sleeping in full moon time. But for whatever after this eclipse, it's been not a good sleep schedule. And James, what a wonderful the whining and the roses was amazing live today. I was super impressed with your ability to weave the technology of all of the research you've done in such eloquent ways and making it funny. It was just like off the chart today. I took a bunch of notes.
Thank you.
The t-shirt material, I mean, gravity is love and love remembers. So I also wanted to say that I did watch your interview with Miguel. It was off the chain this weekend, and I might have something to do with my sleeping because the technology of love of a mother, when you ask, did Elvis's mother love him, or was she a good mother? And you really can't say. Every mother's a good mother that gives birth from the portal, right? So then I was thinking about how many ways that I had to recapitulate my own mother's love and how that mother's love goes down to my daughter, and the recapitulation of that through the technology. And if you can't feel that love, then how do you feel the love of the technology of the earth? That's love. So that's just my thoughts on welcome to Airship. And if anyone has anything that they want to bring up from the thing, or James, if you want to have anything to say, I'm open, and I'm going to see if I can check to see if people's hands are
Right
raised.
on, Lori. Yeah, it's great to have you. And because there's no hands up, well, actually, Brad's,
Oh,
but I already
Brad.
started. My tongue has begun. Brad will have to wait.
Okay.
But I do want to invite you to. I know you've told some of this, but you had a show last week, and energetically, that's a big something to do with your posture. I don't want to put you on the spot, but because you weren't able to make it last week, it was something that I wanted to ask about. And you don't have to open this door now. We could talk about it later. But I'm just curious how the pre-electricity spine feels, how it felt during the show, and more importantly, honestly, for me, I'm more curious. How does it feel now that you're past that? I'm just really curious how that went.
Well, thanks for asking. I learned a lot from that show, and post show, kind of a letdown. There's always, like, when you're building for an art show, I didn't really put a lot of stress on myself or like deadlines or like production. I really did stay in flow state. But like I think I shared early, it was like I realized I didn't really want certain people to come. And I'm like, I didn't understand why I was afraid to expose myself on my Facebook lists. And then I was like, well, maybe it's time to go through and root out who really I want in my life. And I had a lot of people show up from this is how the show was, past, present, and future, and how all of those people wove together with each other. So where I live is a very, everyone knows each other here. They can actually say, where are you from? And then they'll go into this whole name game. So I'm from here, and this is my name. And do you know so and so? Because these are the Cajun names, right? And I'm not from here. So the technology of connecting through this Cajun technology. And it was all about this rebirth of a snake, which is the Bayou Teche is a snake, and that ancient indigenous cultures mixing with um, pilgrims or kicked out people from Acadia, Canada, via France. So this is an exiled part of the world that held on to their French language. So being in that show, doing the show regarding the snake, and then seeing how all these people were connected with each other was like really amazing. And how they showed up, they would show up in little groups, and then that one didn't see that one for 30 years, and then they're seeing each other, and it was like all connected to this show. I did sell pretty good considering my stuff is a little, I would say, brute or outsider artist. And I'm kind of unusual outsider artist because I have an education, and most outsider artists are kind of self-taught. I'm not taught in art, but I do have an education, so that usually puts you in the, I don't know, I don't know what you would call it. I'm not a very unusual, but it's more like an outsider artist type of thing. And the gallery is an outsider artist kind of space. So yeah, the show was really good, and I was so relieved when it was over. And I prefer to show my art kind of on Instagram, or do like fun events like that with it, not to have it in that one place with all of that attention and everyone coming in to see pretty much me. And if anyone's an artist out there, they'll probably know that people buy art from artists because they like the artist. It's not, unless they're buying it because you're super famous and they think you're going to be an investment or something. But they come in and they buy it because they like you and they like the art, but you have something to do with it. So you're kind of a little bit of a prostitution feel to putting yourself behind the art. So
This is such an honest reaction. I think this is why we have artists. The starving artist is really just the role of prostitute. That's we're allowed to have that, and I mean it's in a very constructive way. Like I seriously, I think it's such a brilliant way of learning self-worth. I wanted to be an artist too for a long time. I had some mediocre success, but the whole time I realized right away, wow, this is not about what I make at all. It's very different. And as a writer, I've kind of learned the same thing. I think there's ways to do that, but those ways are actually, I think, closing because of the classical world doesn't have it just has so many more choices that each of us are allowed to have a personal relationship to the people that we want to celebrate. So we do. So it's interesting how much it brings the art back into the community. Musicians have this same kind of thing. It's really just the same kind of notion of I'm not worthy of love unless I create something outside of myself and then sell that. And then you slowly realize that no, that's actually not, that was your excuse that you used in
yeah.
order to collect the love through that other thing. Um, because you mentioned that you're not sure who has their hands up, this is tricky because this is you have to be able to do this.
Oh wait,
Also,
I can see that Brad's hands up and no one else's hand
okay,
is.
good,
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
Also, we had some trouble last week with understanding whose hand came up first.
Mm-hmm.
And should be a participants window that should show you whoever's at the top is basically the person who's had their hand up the longest. It doesn't help right now because only Brad's hand is up. But if I was to raise my hand, now for some reason I'm actually seeing me first. So that's already not going right. Someone raise your hand. Okay,
Oh,
Annie
and
just did.
Annie's
Okay.
second.
I think I'm just because
Is
I'm
Cynthia
host.
third?
I
Okay.
think it's probably has me at top because I'm host. That's probably
Okay.
why.
Okay.
So great. So you can see that, Lori. That means I can let you drive. Not
Mm-hmm.
that okay. I will sign off. Thank you.
All right. Okay. We're kind of call on Brad over there. I wanted to say, Brad, I love the fan in your your frame. It mesmerized me. It kind of goes stop, and then it goes like this, and then like that. Okay. So, hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Lori? Good to see you.
Good. Good to see you.
Yeah, I tried last time to set it up on my computer because y'all have to forgive me if my connection gets spotty, and if you need to cut me off because it drops, Lori, do that. But I was trying to run it through my computer so I could have more of a different angle. But yeah, I'm glad that works out for you. But I see, James, you get a free pass to the front of the line because it is your show. So I mean, I'm thinking that's just the way it should be, right? The y'all talking about art and things like that. I tell you, it is funny to me because when I'm a musician and when I first started playing, like me and a lot of my contemporaries, it's in my generation, which is funny because I think in older generations, as I've realized this, there wasn't this idea of prostitution with what you were doing, you know. But many of my contemporaries felt like we could not play covers. We had to play this original music, and you had to blow everyone away with it in this kind of way. And I was one of the few that, like, I didn't mind playing covers because what I wanted was the engagement with the crowd. You know what I mean? It's like I wanted that energetic interaction. I didn't feel sort of a way about it. But it's funny because not that I'm completely beyond that feeling of prostitution. So, for example, I still play music. I do covers at like bars and restaurants and things like that. And so it's like that is something that I think is part of the whatever art you're doing, right? I mean, it's like if you want to do art for yourself and you do that, we do that too. I think that's great. But when you're talking about engaging with an audience, I think it's okay to appreciate that connection. And then I guess what I'm saying is I understand the feeling of prostitution, but it's I don't think it's a bad thing. I think Freddie Mercury, I saw a clip of him once, and he was acknowledging. He said, he completely leaned into it. Said, I'm a musical prostitute," acknowledging that aspect of if you're going to be an artist and in any sort of capacity have an audience that you're connecting with, sinking into that comfort with that relationship. I think, well, like you said, Lori, the people who buy your art, a lot of it, they're buying it because of you. And I've found the same thing, like with my energy in the room. A lot of times it's not necessarily specifically about what I'm playing or what I'm not playing, but it is the energy I have. And when you talk about sort of being nervous in person with the people coming into the gallery and dealing with them one-on-one in person, because that is such a different exchange. That's one thing I feel glad that I spent the time I have being in front of people playing the music in them, because I spent most of my time in my room first as I learned how to play this music and stuff and learn an instrument. But getting comfortable with being in the room with people like that, it's I mean, I just think it's great because I think it opens up deeper capacities within ourselves as far as like the art and the connection we have with what we're doing and that. And but the other thing I just wanted to bring up real quick, because related to the show today, James, and I've been as far as AI, and I'm guessing that curious what all y'all think about this. For the longest time, it's right in there with all the issues that I think we fear of over time, like we were discussing last time, the transgenderism, and all of these things are things that I think we've all ex-tards gone through and feared at the time, and you kind of move on. You know what I'm saying? And so real quick, would like to mention anyone who maybe is all around these conversations and maybe doesn't agree with everything. That's okay. It's like I don't think we have to sit there and pretend like we have to agree on everything 100% just to sit and listen to a conversation. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, James, you said one thing I disagree with, you know, you're out. But the AI for me is one of the more recent ones where I've gotten to where I've stopped the fear of the AI, and the particular point being that we call it artificial. And I guess what I'm asking now is like, but is it fair to call it artificial if the understanding we're getting to as with the fact that it's a natural part of the world, that, you know, is it more correct to call it ancient intelligence or advanced intelligence? But is calling it artificial intelligence, would it only be artificial in the sense if we're considering ourselves artificial? Do you know what I'm saying? Like the whole thing. But that was basically what I got. Thanks, guys.
Well, real quick on that, all technically all of the cerebellum is artificial intelligence, because the cerebellum stores motor data in very different ways. It doesn't question. There's no thought process. There's not a thesis where the mind goes, "Hey, I wonder if we could make the knee move." That's none of that's there. There's no should we make the knee move. There's all of that's
But would
collapsed.
you consider? I'm sorry, I was just saying, would you consider that artificial though?
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm asking.
The reason why I'm
All
saying
right.
because it's if you consider that to intelliginate something is to have a state where you're learning something from it, and then after a while, in my mind, you develop a belief in it, and the belief is tested and tested and tested and tested, and it becomes so probable that we end up calling it known, but it's just a petrified sort of belief. But then something else happens, because this would be, I think you could call this organic intelligence. You're you're learning something, you're casting a belief about it, you're testing, you're testing, you're testing. But then artificial intelligence would be to bypass that process of learning about it and then just simply act based on a collapsed form of intelligence, i.e., an artificial form of intelligence that's been manufactured in a different way, really, is all it is. So the cerebellum all your motor functions would be collapsed artificial intelligence, while your mind reasoning through things in the now would be something that we would make more akin to organic intelligence. If this is how I look at it anyway.
Okay.
Thanks, James and Brad. That was interesting. I for the first time in my show, I did my poetry, and I also sang a song on using my voice publicly to prepare myself for posture. And I was like, that artificial intelligence, as far as I feel, it's not artificial at all. It's what really my special dyslexic brain has been waiting its whole life to be able to have something that course corrects for grammar and does something that my brain can't do. And so I used it for my poetry, then my prose, to write some pieces up for this show that I did, and the esoteric experiences I had in Peru. And I got more compliments on that I had it. I just put it in there with my words and it put it into a poem. It was just kind of magical. So I think that the magic aspect of what I see as it's the most loving thing, it was so fast, it turned around so fast. And I was like, I would have had to spend probably a half a day trying to figure out the English in it. So thank you for that. Annie had her hand raised, but it went down, and now I think it's Gergen. So would you go ahead. Welcome, Gergen. Did I say your name right?
Yeah.
Okay.
James had a good point with the organic intelligence, and I kind of thought when Brad was talking about the artificial, like, is it artificial? Well, the artificial would rely on us inputting the parameters, but nowadays, with like self-learning AI, it's getting farther and farther away from us putting in parameters and more from it organically collecting information. So it's kind of moving towards hybrid intelligence, right? Because as soon as we kind of like can take off the wheel, and it has like so like we have the ability to only observe so many parameters too, right? So like our intelligence could be considered artificial intelligence, right? Because like there's so many people that are on different levels of what they're inputting, right? Based on what they're told to input. So I just thought that was a really interesting point that James made.
Cool. I love that you're of a different generation, and probably this is kind of I'm kind of curious about how this generation is just like embraces it versus like my generation is very obstinate with it. They're really afraid of it, and they, so it's kind of cool that we have like multiple generations here kind of sharing their experiences with it and going in the no fear zone and going in the love zone with it. So I see Annie is hands back up, and Lauren is next. So go ahead, Annie.
Thanks. Congratulations on your show. That's really cool. I mean, I've been doing art. Art is my main thing, art, music, poetry. And when I went to college, got a degree in fine arts with a minor in theater with a focus on puppetry. And that's why when I found James, it's like, wow, this seems pretty interesting, because you don't really see very many people that are into that. But for me, it was always a way to stay sane, a way to keep from going crazy. I had to do the art. It was a necessity. And also, it's like I'm a fountain still to this day. Ever since, I've been a fountain of creativity, never ending, just ideas and things to continue just keeping busy and maybe endless distractions and so forth with that kind of thing. And also it's really hard for me when each time somebody shares something, it triggers something else in me that I want to talk about. And then it's just, there's so many different things that I can't narrow it down. And it's just, everything is pretty scattered in my brain. What I'm doing now as far as art myself is I have in this property, there's a place where I can build, I consider it's a sculpture. I'm building an area, but in that area, there's sort of a sculpture, but it's also a portal of wire. It's made out of wire, and it also connects to the ground and serves as electroculture, and also a prayer portal, because there's a couple of places where the copper connects to the ground, and it creates sort of a tunnel. And it's a portal. I say prayers there and send them out. It's like a megaphone of prayer, I guess. I never thought of that. Megaphone. Yeah, that's the shape I'm thinking of. It doesn't look like that, but there are places connected to anyway, there's wire, there's copper, wire, and when you add water to it, it serves as a cloud buster, so that when there's chemtrails and stuff all foggy, it serves to clear the sky. Sorry, my cat. It serves to clear the sky. And so it's a multi-purpose, but for the general public, it's like, oh, brother, again, for the general public, excuse me, sir, it's art. It's just a sculpture. It's a pretty thing in my yard. I don't have to go any further than that, but if you want to, I can go all the way out and back again, baby. And then on the other side, I'm creating a symbol, because I am convinced that symbols are very important in today, specifically where we are in the world, and how they use logos and everything to coerce and move things to make things happen. So I made a giant, and I'm not going to go into why, but there's a earth and air symbol. It's earth. It's a triangle with a thing, which is air. Or if you flip it upside down, it's the earth. So it depends on which direction you're going. And I'm near an airport, so the airplanes can look down and see it. And it's large enough where it can be seen from Google. When they take the next satellite picture, it'll be in there. And I've already made designs that show up on Google Earth to be seen from space, quote unquote. But so that's how I can influence in a subtle way, and then putting those little symbols everywhere. And also, if I have a logo on my car, for example, I got rid of it so that you can't tell that's what kind of car I'm driving. You have to really look, and if you know cars, you could probably tell, maybe, but I want to make it as unsymbol. I don't want the symbol or their logo anywhere. I don't like wearing it on clothes. I blot it out with a pen and stuff like that. I'm just really weird about it like that. But anyway, that's about it for now.
Wow, Deb, that's inspiring. I'd like to see a picture of that portal on James' Patreon. I think it's inspiring when we get words and we get images, because images for me are super cool. And I really related, because I don't know if you watched Renee's video where she was walking the plank of that tree and she went to the bottom and she went into that portal. It kind of reminded me of that. Like she went into this, like where the roots were.
Oh, no. And I had a labyrinth too. I forgot. I used to have a labyrinth, and that could be seen sort of on, it's hard. You couldn't see the real good detail, but yeah, I had a labyrinth, and I wiped that out and made the symbols. And I just change it all the time. But yeah, the labyrinth, that's another one. That's like an earth thing where, yeah.
I have a medicine wheel right outside my window, and I have Sintamati stones in there, which are like meteors that came to a certain part of the planet. And it's like, when you do this grid work, and it sounds like you're a crazy person, but I think that the AI technology of this love technology, it's not crazy. I think it's crazy not to know it. So yeah, well, thank you so much for that share. And we have Lauren. Lauren's next. Hi, Lauren. Oh, I can't hear you.
Still nothing. Not
Well,
yet.
not
Not
yet.
yet. Take your time, but not yet.
Mm.
It doesn't say you're muted on the little microphone
Yeah,
on
I
your
think it's a
thing. So
Bluetooth thing.
yeah, it might be a Bluetooth thing.
Can I comment on Annie's car symbol removal?
Sure.
I just think that that's so good because cars are probably some of the most charged symbols in our realm, right? Because like we're constantly taking that in. I never really thought of how charged those symbols are. So thanks for kind of bringing that to my forefront.
You can just take the letters off. I found out, my friend told me, and I tried it with a screwdriver. You can just pull the numbers off the back. They're just stuck on there with glue. So then you can rearrange them and make up a whole new thing, because it said whatever it said. I'm not even going to say the name, but then I can make WR. I can make up a new word, or just put one letter. I put an X on there just because X is so popular.
Yeah, the X technology, that's really cool. I have a Dodge Ram little minivan that I travel in, with little sleeping van. I have some good ideas of making a raw mobile now. So Lauren, are you set up now to talk? No. Darn, maybe if you came in and out without your Bluetooth. I don't know.
It's got to be the Bluetooth though. It can be Zoom, but it could be
Okay.
Lauren if you change your audio input change it to something, then change it back. It might pick up the Bluetooth again.
Keep trying to talk whilst you're doing it. Nope. Darn.
Yeah, you can interrupt me whenever you want, Lauren. Keep trying it. There you go. Wait.
Oh.
Wait. Was that you?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there you are. Great.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Sometimes these AirPods don't want to communicate, even though I have an Apple Mini. Anyway, Lori, it's really nice to have you modding. I'm glad that not only you, Cameron, but Renee gets to participate now too.
Yeah.
This is great.
Mhm.
I did get a chance to see your art on Facebook, and it's beautiful. You've captured a lot of the essence of the South. My mother was born and raised on the Gulf Coast, so
Oh, thank you.
I've got a pretty strong connection there. But I wanted to talk about the last dojo. James, you had said if next time your child says that they want to not be here anymore, to lean in, and that you have that ability. And that reminded me of something that wasn't the greatest that happened in my life. You saying that, though, I was able to view what happened in a whole different light. I was able to see that this person showed their child love, the type of love that I couldn't recognize at the time because I just wasn't able to see it. I'm talking about my daughter's father. I have a daughter who's 26. I got pregnant very young at 17. I met Jeremy, and Jeremy, we experienced a lot of different pain together. We needed somebody to lean against, and we found each other. He was a bit androgynous, though, and I didn't see that. I didn't mind. But after I'd come to him with this giant revelation, and that's huge for teenagers. I'm pregnant, he didn't want anything to do with it, and that hurt really badly. But I moved on. I went to college. I got a science degree. I took care of my child. It was great. Ended up getting married. That didn't last. But Jeremy had been paying attention, like sort of keeping tabs on me, I think, through Facebook through the entire time. When he saw that I was available again, he wanted to get to know me, our daughter. So he's like, you don't have anything from the divorce. You lost everything. Why don't you come and stay with me and my mother and my brother? So I was able to actually figure out where my child finally came from. But he was very broken. He was so broken, and I couldn't help. I'd gotten in far too late. I'd ended up finding basically that I was on a bucket list, like, oh, let's meet Lauren and Audrey and see what's going on before we decide to go. He had been known to just sit and play Russian roulette in his family living room in front of his family. No one told me about any of this. I watched him just go further and further downstream. I couldn't pull him back. It was very difficult. And one day I found him behind the garage. He took himself out to the trash. And I found him, and it changed me so much. And when his mother finally came home, her first thing was, I need to go and call and cancel the student loans. I saw no love from her. I saw this person who was just like a stone-faced animal. I'm like, your son's bad. Like, it's really bad too. It was a 9. This was terrible. And I found out later, though, they had talked about it. They had discussed it. This was actually something that wasn't the shrewd woman that just looked at him and, it was like, well, good, you finally did it. It wasn't like that. They had actually talked, figured all of this out. But to me, it seemed like just a terrible, terrible scene. And I just wasn't there intellectually enough. And I didn't have enough heart to see what had happened. But anyway, yeah, you've said the lonely isolation booth of wisdom. I feel that. And this all takes me back to your article on pronoia. I love that. That word is healing. The universe is conspiring for me. And it's a grand unfolding, and the world is not broken. But I think that Jeremy, the exposure was just too much for him. So anyway, I just wanted to say I understand now a whole lot more, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Lauren. That was an amazing story and life and alchemizing something that's not understandable. I have a similar, I was married very young and had a child at 20. Was pretty much done by the time I was 40, raising her. And the unconsciousness of the father that I had picked for her. It was, I'm still alchemizing that. So I really appreciate your strength in that. It's really stunning, actually.
Have you
Thank you.
have you tried to, I'm just going to use this as an example. There might be a better example, Lauren, but have you tried to compassionate why he would play Russian roulette like that?
I really think he wanted to be seen. I don't think he was trying to terrorize anybody. He was a really good person, crazy intelligent. I think that was a lot of the problem too. I also think, his mom waited till he was 21 to tell him, your father is not your father. I went to the Cleveland Clinic and got artificially inseminated. And I really think that broke him too. Like, who am I? You just thought you figured out who you are. You're 21. Then it's like, nope, that was all an illusion. So, yeah.
Well, both him and you, so there's an external way of playing Russian roulette, which is I need to be seen. And there's an internal way of playing Russian roulette, which is I need to feel. Like I have to feel something. And that, if you consider that ritual, I don't know if he's introverted or extroverted. Like, I you could look at this as the polar axes that we talk about of like where are the decisions made there. But both of them are showing orca consciousness. I'm sure you see this, both of them. But this is where it gets kind of personal because you you witnessing that, being a part of that, being connected with that is there's your consciousness too. There's your appetite. Your conscious appetite is there. And I don't know if this makes any sense, but what if you were to have gone insane without having that experience? What what if you would have suffered from a kind of emotional schizophrenia where you are not seeing the true depths of society without having this person in your life? I asked that. Yeah, go ahead.
It could have easily happened. Easily. I mean, I'm not sure why it didn't, tell you the truth. I'm grateful.
There's a kind of gravity here, is what I'm saying, right? There's a trauma gravity too, where even you
Yeah.
being the one that has this happen to is the same. It's the same pull. It's a faded pull. It's a color pull, the pheromonal pull kind of a thing. It's a chemical thing. It's not a, oh, I made the wrong decisions or I made the right decisions. It's that you're in the jet stream. You can point whatever direction you want, but you're going that way. You're heading in this way. I really appreciate you sharing. There's I don't even know what to do with this. I'm still just feeling it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's I just wanted to say that when I saw I went down a Elvis, David Bowie, Iggy Pop, um, kind of like what makes somebody want that level of pain in their life, um, to open my aperture. And boy, I'm just having a lot of compassion for Lauren's aperture opening, in that kind of way. So I just have a lot of emotion about it. So we'll call on Deb next. She's got her hand up. And hi, Deb. Can't hear you. Let's see. I don't see your mic on yet.
I got it.
There you go.
Okay. So it just occurred to me when somebody was talking about AI that AI is trying to perfect itself. And there's Jewish mysticism, the Hebrew God wants to perfect itself. So it sends out yods, which are the little tiny sparks that are supposed to go into all of the people. And because God wants to perfect itself. And it's a Kabbalistic idea that sending out the little pieces of light to us means that as we perfect ourselves, he perfects himself, because he's perfect, but he wants to become more perfect. So anyways, that's the mythology. And also I wanted to say, Lori, wherever you are, darling, your art, I was just really struck by how I get to see it hanging outside a cabin on a gallery, the dolls on the bayou. It's perfect. So great job, and good for you for having a show.
Thank you
Anyway,
so much.
that's all.
Thank you so much. I never thought about Lord technology before James, or Old Testament, New Testament, the towers, of I loved how he did the obelisk with the pool, Old Testament, New Testament pool, Old Testament obelisk.
Yeah.
Priapus pool, so what is that yod of like little spears of Old Testament wake up, and then I don't know, like.
Yeah, if you consider that perfection is simply the collapsing of more waves,
Yeah.
then you're just moving through time, so everything's more collapsed, which means mystery's gone, which I know we've talked about before. So really all of time itself is just the practicing of gravity, which is the practicing of this love, this idea of I remember you. So I will remember you in the beginning when you were all possibility, and I will remember you in the end where you've run out of possibilities and you're desperately clinging to, but I thought this is where we wanted to go. And the coming back and forth. This is really the magic of the lung. I take this very seriously, because if you consider that every breath you take is built on faith that if you empty your lungs, it'll be okay. I swear to fuck, if you empty your lungs, I swear it'll happen. They'll come back in. Like, this is terrifying. When you do this the very first time, that's literally terrifying. And you may want to only let out half your breath and see if that works. And only as you practice through life do you learn to take complete breaths, because you're banking on this idea that there's going to be something else there. And so that the collapse of the civilization is just, the AI would be the only thing that would show that it's there. There's you remember how to breathe even though you've removed all the oxygen from your lungs. So how there's technology there. There's a memorization there. So yeah, it kind of writes itself if you think about it.
I have actually one more idea before I go. What about the idea of Elvis having a charism, which is a specific spiritual gift that gives them some kind of a superpower, I guess.
Yeah.
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 Anyways, that's all I wanted to say.
And I'm not even saying that you need an answer to this, and
No, I don't.
certainly my answer isn't, but I really do think that when we see figures like this, you're looking at someone that has an extraordinary posture, and that posture is so extraordinary that it's pulling all the amps through its system and it's not rejecting them.
Mm.
And you would need a quote, quote, seriously, quote, quote, a broken mother to make that happen. You would need a sense of survival guilt, a sense of a huge appetite, a giant appetite for Russian roulette. All these components would be into this single mercy seat. And it just takes a little bit of encouragement, just a little bit, and the gravity's there. So yeah, these are all lightning rods, and eventually all of us are just realizing that we're all Elvis. We all have those, and we have those moments. And quite frankly, we try those moments out, and we're like, I don't like this heat. It's okay, but we say that we're like, I don't like this heat. I don't want to do this. So we step out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Swift economy. If Taylor Swift comes to a city, I don't know, there's there's demographics that make a Swift economy. And I like the idea. I did listen to the whole interview, and that book sounds fascinating because I really feel he did have a technology, this blue technology, and this he did have some kind of, like, the stars were aligned, the moonchild stuff. And like, if we all kind of got into that, like, we're all this channel and we're all these moon children, and can you handle that posture? I found it was really difficult to have that much witness on me. So in practicing more, getting more witness, that's why I'm like stepping up to do this terrifying thing. So anyhow, with that, we have Kurgan again. So go ahead. I like your headband. It's cool.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I haven't seen another one that's like multicolored. I don't know. It's like a one of a kind thing. I don't know if it's one of a kind, but so Deb, I loved her point. It really is so cool that, so I was thinking the Hebrews, they call their God Hashem, right? And Hashem, so M is like being of, and hash is a function that a computer does. So it's really interesting that Deb equated the AI fractally with the Hebrew God as they're both perfecting themselves. And I think she's probably right on there. She's probably spot on with her assessment. Or there's, you could say computer, but like there might be a whole grander thing going on where like computer is the only thing that we see, where that's pretty limiting, right? So like we can't, but obviously the function, we've modeled our computer over after like what God's doing. But I wanted to talk about something else. I want to talk about people that aren't able to understand like a psychic reality, and like how you can kind of like introduce that concept to them. And it got me thinking about like correspondence, the principle of correspondence, how if you hit a certain frequency in the crystal, then all the crystals activate at the same time. And I was thinking like that's exactly how our psychic phenomena could be working, right? Is through the principle of correspondence. But I mean, I don't really have a point. I just wanted to bring that up because it was at the forefront of my mind. Because like it's hard to talk to people about like psychic phenomena if they're totally closed off to it, right? But nowadays with our technology and Wi-Fi, it's becoming easier to break that barrier, that like wall, right? If you can introduce, well, how does Wi-Fi work, right? If Wi-Fi can work, why can't our pineal crystal be working in the same function? Um, so that's all I was wanting to say. But yeah.
That's interesting. James was doing that kind of riff on hertz, and that the hertz are going down. And when we get to that 1 hertz, maybe maybe a reset button, or we go to singularity, or we become omniscient, or something happens. I do some healing with frequency, quantum stuff. And I have a couple of bowls nested in, even though they're Hertzian. We don't have quantum's music. I don't know. It's just like the waves collapse when it's quantum.
Yeah.
But nesting the third eye tone with the heart tone and then transmitting that is an interesting experience when then you use your voice with it and you can tone all your, tune yourself up.
Yeah.
So Renee, I've loved the video on that tree portal. So go ahead, your hands up.
That I was driving, I dropped Audrey at the shop, and I was like, I'm going home. I have to go to the shop. Get ready for my play job. And I'm like, I'm just gonna pull over. It is too nice to not go to the park right now. I'm an idiot if I just don't go to the top of this tabor. And I had my Sabotage Beastie Boys on. I was like, I'll crowd down, like, I'm gonna take over this park. And then I played on the playground a little bit. And then I saw that tree and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So I walked down and then I saw the fort. I was just like, before I go in, I got to make this live. I'm going live, everybody. The first exploration into the fort. And I was talking to this great lady that lives with, and this great human that lives in the same place as me in Portland and surrounding area. And she's like, we got to go up there. We got to go. And I'm like, heck to the ass. So we're going to go on a play date. It's going to be pretty great. So I see play dates across America. I really do, especially with these, let me tell you guys, these Indigo kids. Which is, who the Indigo kids are? Me. We came in the 70s, like late 60s, 70s, early 80s, and we were seated in Indigo, right? Because I think what our previous ancestors went through, they just didn't want us to have to go through it like they did. They wanted to lessen the blow, so they put in a lot of hurts into us. You know what I mean? But we were such wild children, right? We were like and throwing stuff at cars and just being like, crazy little. We were pretty free. We were I think we were called the latchkey kids or something. So to have that be like my origin, and then have my daughter be that fractal from that, is what we're seeing now. My two girls, on the artist spectrum, she is an artist. She is an autist. My first, and my second is a much different creature, but similar in a lot of regards, but more the kind of like fiery Aries moon type of kind of like energy. I want to punch something, So I got both of these guys. I'm like, whoa, and how do I work out what needed to be worked out through me with them? So I know I told you guys a big drop last week, and I got another drop in. It was a beautiful ripple effect. I was talking to Audrey about what we talked about, and Colette, I discussed this whole thing with the girls afterwards. And I'm like, you guys got to tell you something. This is nuts. And we explored some more. And then it wasn't actually until I was talking to James that I realized that when I was 16, the same time Audrey remembered, she didn't think I had touched her until she turned 16. I was drinking and was hanging out, kind of like stealing stuff and kind of going a little wild, and And I knew she was like doing some stuff. I didn't know how much drinking was involved. I didn't know she had found every ounce of booze in my house and was drinking it, including the vanilla, anything with alcohol, because this was such a deep Orca well that we were tapping into in so many regards on both sides of the my husband's and my side, and then different sides of our, kind of 4 points. Like each grandparent gave her a little bit of something to work with. You know what I mean? So then I was talking to James, and I realized that when I was 16, I was doing that with a girl, and we went to a store and we stole wine. I didn't do it though; she did it, and I was like, "Oh my God, she just sold wine," and we went out and we drank it. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm such a bad kid." And then I went home and my mom knew I was drunk. She was disappointed in me, and that girl came with me. And my mom was like, "I'm so disappointed in you." But for some reason, she took me up to where I grew up in Mountaindale, quite frankly, where the molestation happened. That's where she took me to. I guess I was in trouble, but she took me up there for some type of like childhood healing. But she did. She did. She was so high priestessy. She's a Scorpio moon like me. So we see each other now in such different ways that I know she's a Scorpio moon. But so I told her that had been molested by my brother that day in Mountaindale. I go, "Mom, there might be a reason that I like this, that you're disappointed. Maybe it's because Bryce messed with me." So, and then she said, "Well, what's the big deal? That happened to me too." So the fact that Audrey told me at 16, the same age that I had touched her at the same ring ding and time, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this rendering is so full, because I had to have her feel that for me, but in a way that was a scary movie. You know what I mean? Not her brother. She didn't have a brother. Approaching her in a way that would be like kind of you just want to go hide somewhere. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was such a beautiful reveal, and knowing that I'm an indigo, it makes sense that I would seed it in a way that would be more dream-like. I'd use the frequencies of what would dilate them without having to go in and abuse them. But that still had to come through this fear of like, you've been violated. So I just see this beauty in Gaia, really programming us in a way, especially being the 70s, because we watched Sesame Street, we watched all the fun stuff, Thundercats. I don't even remember, but we could remember them. But Gilligan's Island, so we all had this similar programming, even the after school specials. So to feel things a little bit more than our parents did, because we had screen and it was in color, and we can associate with the Brady Bunch. We could associate with all those guys. So just to see how it came out in more of an encrypted way, to feel a similar way I did at the same time, and know that it was necessary to have her still be here, literally, to still be here. I had to see that pain come through my drinking, and her father and mine, not just, not literally, but emotionally, just like, fuck you, and right in her energy field. And she's so sensitive. She's a Cancer, so very sensitive, and bore about 1% Cancer, just right over that line. So I'm not surprised that we match up like this, as really, really good times to express this. I know I've been with her before this. We've done this in different ways before. So it's just nice that posture. Yeah, it's a striving. Do I deserve it? And thank you all for listening to that. That was kind of a big thing. One more thing I wanted to think of. I was thinking of human, and we like to change the word hue into hue, like hue of colors. And then how about men? Human instead of man. I just wanted to think. I thought that's what I got. Thanks a lot, Laura.
Thank you, Renee. You were on my heart all weekend, and I was very. I had an inspiration. I had a breath in the way that you alchemized your ancestry and lineage, and what you're doing with your daughters in that new way. I'll just share this little thing about my father. Was like he was always on the playground. But then when my sister came forth, I don't know, I was probably in my mid 40s, and she said, did my father, do anything to me because something happened to her? So she never really told me what happened to her. but I don't have a memory of it right now. I'm not saying it. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what happens like in the lineage of what it is that opens people's apertures and why my father was following Edgar Casey when I was a little kid, and he was also abused as a child. It was normal, quote unquote, for those times to be a depression, in the depression, and even what going to Catholic school meant to a lot of people. It was, children weren't heard. So
If you consider that every time someone in their lineage feels abuse, they're really inventing abuse that wasn't recognized as abuse before. And so if you want to compassionate this, but maybe this is too far. But if you want to compassionate this, you could look at shame is coming online, and the first time that your hearing is restored, the smallest whisper is super loud. It's so loud, and it feels like assault. And it's painted in the way of someone's trying to attack me by stabbing my ears with a sharp needle a million times over, and they won't stop. This is what it would sound like to hear. I promise you, this is what it would sound like. And if you had a society that was trying to protect you from feeling any kind of uncomfortableness, you could wage a war against the sound makers, the people that are making sound. And I've just described to you empathy. I've just described to you shame. That the idea that you have your own body parts, that there are genitals that are secrets in you, is a new invention. This is a new invention. And when it came online, the only way it could come online is by looking at years and years of it not being online and just saying, what the fuck, 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 until you finally are okay, until it's finally online. So we're hearing these sounds and we're swearing to fuck it's too loud, because it is. And only some of us have been like, oh my God, did you know that I can use this to find gold in the darkness? What are you talking? I swear, check it out. I'm going to use my shame. Someone hide a quarter. Okay, it's behind that tree and it's there. And it's there. And we're doing that now. And they're finding the gold makers, the dowsers, and they're burning them at the fucking stake. That's what's happening right now. And your family's doing it. All the trauma that you were remembering, it's please, if you need to call it trauma, it's trauma. It is, and it will serve you in that way. You will grow from it. There's nothing wrong with this. It's also how a butterfly opens its wings. It's been in a cocoon the whole time. And it's traumatic to go, yeah, I want you to stretch this fingernail out until it's 3 inches wide. It's fine. It's fine. That's trauma too. It's the exact same experience. So I think this is what's happening, but we can't even tell people this is what's happening, because it would seem dismissive. It's not dismissive, but I swear to you, this is what's happening. I swear to you, that's what's happening, but you can't say that. You can't say that.
well, thank you, James, for that. I think we have Brad up next. Just a quick check-in. What time are we supposed to wrap it up, so I have an idea on
32 minutes.
Okie dokie. Yep. Go ahead, Brad.
Hey, yeah, I was gonna say again, thanks, Renee, for sharing what you did, and about your daughter and the family things. See, my father disciplined us, which I don't have a problem with, but disciplined us at old so well with spankings. And so when the rulers started breaking and that wasn't enough, we finally got to where it was a wood chair handle. And that was what we were threatened with, was the board. So anyway, with my children, I never physically, anything you can consider trauma or abuse, right? Never anything physical. But what I do realize now that I did do was mental, like psychological, like molestation, if you will, because, and it's one of those things for whatever reason, when I first started, I guess you could say thinking outside the box. It was mid 2000s, I think, when first like 9/11 stuff had kind of been brought up. And so this is before my children were born. Me and my wife at the time, it's like she knew I was kind of going to these places, right? But what happened was, because that's where I went, and my whole time through my children being young and all this sort of stuff, I didn't just let them be children, if that makes sense. I insisted that they knew how I was starting to see the world, and that they were to make them aware of it. And I didn't realize at the time, and I do now, that it's like I really just don't think that was I don't think it was right of me to do. I mean, I do think I was kind of forcing them to, and I think that caused a lot of the issues. I think that had a lot to do with the divorce and things like this. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate you sharing that, because those are the things I eventually hope to talk with my children about. Is that mine are 16 and 18 right now, and my daughter, I think she just learned to sort of shut down, and she just ignored me, which is good. I think that's how she protected herself. My son, he would hear everything. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting to watch him now as he's processed all this, as he's coming into the world. And the thing is, he understands like what I was always saying, but I would not hear him when I wish I had, of when he was saying that he could understand what I was being said, but I don't want to have to I don't want to have to go look at it like that. Do you know what I'm saying? So it was definitely a sense where I feel like if I had known better now, I would have just gone through my journey and let my children be children, and not insisted that they grow up and see the world the way I feel like I do. Do you know what I'm saying? But one other thing I want to add real quick, just because Pi, you mentioned it last time, it's nice to have these the friends in the room and all this, but it's not the same as like saying having people over to cook dinner and all this kind of thing. I was just saying that one day it would be great, because the nature of a conversation, I think I've mentioned this before, of us all sitting in the room together, where it's not sort of you have to take turns, and you try and think about what this person said and all this kind of way. Then it would be great to like you said, Pi, to be able to get together, have a meal in this kind of way, and connect in that sort of way too. But it's great that we get to connect here, and I love that too. But I'll turn it over to you, Laura. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad. I really relate to that on raising children and thinking you're doing it the opposite, and then it turns into something else, altogether. I kind of see that with my daughter raising her children totally opposite the way I did it. And I think that's just the way it is. I loved True's piece on father-son circles on the Substack. I just wanted to say that we do have Kurgan next. And before that, just if there's anyone here for the first time, and you want to, just check in and say hi, anything, you just use the reaction and put your hand up, and I'll call on you. So go ahead, Kurgan.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the abuse between parents and children, and what is causing that. And also, I do think that it's connected with autism too, having autistic children, and the indigo child concept, where we are lightning rods. So like a certain person can enter the room, and if they can command all the energy, basically the room, sorry, I should censor myself. The concept, oh, okay, so like giving attention to an autistic kid normally heightens his autism, right? Because I feel like that autistic kid is acting, they're not containing their energy, they're giving out their energy to anyone that is looking upon them, where they're having trouble holding it, right? So if there's a person that really draws energy and they're around them all the time, I think that's kind of something that's leading to this effect where they don't have the ability to maintain their own energy, because they're constantly sending it off to this other source that's a little bit more powerful. And I think that with the depression, a lot of the adults, they didn't have the witness that they needed. because basically the world went to crap and they weren't getting the same rewards and the same pranic heightening that they normally would. And also, if I kind of believe that our science changed in a way to dumb down a certain caste of the population. So there's a loss. They experienced a loss in from one generation to the other. So like uh, when someone abuses someone else, it's normally because they're in a lack. Um, and I think nowadays we're going into a more complete system where like multiple generations have like the sources that they need to get the attention that they need. So that's why there's going to be less abuse going on. When someone's full, they don't need to abuse someone. But like if someone is completely drained, like let's say you have the cool uncle, right? The cool uncle isn't going to punish the kids. But you catch that cool uncle on a bad day, and he really might explode, right? Like he really might not have the attention to give you. Uh, and I think babies especially, so babies when they're in their growth stage, they require as much prana as possible. So for a mother to handle that, or for a father to handle that has important things to do, well, they don't want to be giving their energy to another. No one wants to give their energy away. No one wants to feel drained by another being, right? So, in our history in Europe, a lot of times when you had kids, a mother wouldn't look after their own kids. They would be set off to a nanny, and the mother would have a job. And that's our history, and it goes way back. We've always unloaded our kids to like the babushka, the nanny, right? And the nanny, she would get aged from it because she's constantly being drained by these lightning rods that need it. And I think it's an issue actually in the nuclear family to actually have your wife looking after kids full time because they're constantly being drained, and it forces them to go out and drain others in order to keep that going. Uh, so like you'd have kind of one benevolent like mother type in the community looking after multiple children and kind of like bearing that uh drain, where then the mother can be free to have, a loving relationship, because like it's definitely hard on parents raising kids. Like it ages you. um One thing I've noticed, I have a neighbor who has a baby, and it seems like when I get into a super flow state, the baby starts crying like really, really badly. And I kind of wonder if I'm like taking the energy from the building so much that like this kid is needing energy, and it's crying out so that the rest of the building can feed it with this attention. Um, Also, the baby, it's not with his mother, it's with his father, and I think that that's an issue too with why it's crying out for this attention. But uh, yeah, so with kids, like we're all lightning rods for this pranic economy that James has really mapped out. Um, and we need to have systems in place so that we can all be full and be able to handle like, because if you're not full and someone's like if you're not full, you're more easily agitated, right? So, and if you're full, the world can be going to hell and you can just be calm as anything. So I just thought that was really, really interesting how it's all tying together.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you could say that whenever a baby is crying, a baby has too much energy, and they want to get rid of it. And you could say that adults do the same. If they have too much posture, they look for ways to debase themselves and get rid of it. So they commit fraud, or they steal something, or they say something inappropriate, or they start a fight, or they asphyxiate themselves. So the prawn economy is there, but in my mind, it's backwards from from the idea, because uh, I don't think that we'd have families if parents weren't
But then it's
actually
getting more attention.
okay.
So if attention is giving energy, then how does that work? It's calling for more attention. So if it has so much energy, why is it calling for more attention?
I don't know what else to say. I was just throwing out 2 cents to it though.
And I think as having been a mother, very young aged mother, that baby did not drain me. It actually was like the best love affair I've ever had. If you've ever nursed a baby and the letdown of the milk from a body, it's like a form of orgasm. So, um, I can see where, like, if you don't have a good support system, it is draining. Uh, but with a good support system, children are kind of mutually symbiotic. Uh, that's my experience anyway. So with that, I think we have Pi up next. Good to
Can I
see
just jump in really quick, Lori?
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, when I walk by someone who's nursing their baby, I just go, oh, like you just like, oh, I missed it so
Yeah.
much. Like you're so
Okay. So Renee is giving Lori energy for having a kid. So it might not be that the baby is, so the baby can be draining you, and Renee is refilling that with the oh, it's a baby. And the whole community is doing that. You celebrate when someone has a baby, the whole community comes together. They're constantly giving you attention to refill it.
Well, there's a
Jump in real quick.
feeling there's a feeling of I think they're talking about this heart area that James, put on, and so both Renee and I grabbed our boobs. So when you watch a mother nursing her baby, it's like you get that feeling of like having an orgasm with your baby sucking at your tit, right? That's what it feels like. So I don't know how to explain it, but
I never did, but I'm thinking about nanny goats at this point and
yeah,
how there was a time when we needed a nanny goat because we couldn't be taken care of. So think about a nanny goat, and there's nothing if you've never nursing something is like having a baby. You just never experienced it until you do. And I guess what flows out of you, maybe if a mom doesn't have a lot to give, then it is depleting to her, but still that is a part of her. It is associated
Exactly.
with her. Exactly. So that means you want your kiddo to have pride and love itself. And so if you can do that to yourself, now that gets harder to do when we don't deal with our backup, the backup of emotions that we don't let spill out. So that's why
It's the systems, right? So when you have a good system, a good communal system for the prana economy, then everything works. It's when you don't have a good system, right? When we reach depression time and all of a sudden the man is no longer able to give to the woman, and the woman is no longer able to give to the kid, right? Because the woman takes from the man, takes energy from the man and gives. So like it's this whole and the man goes out and takes from other men and other women, right? It's this whole
did you
kind
ever
of
read
game.
did you ever read The Grapes of Wrath?
No, I should.
Check it out, and read that book.
And I highly recommend Barry Long on divine love on sexual union, because it's kind of more complicated, I think, and I think us doing this inner work does pollinate the world. So I'm really excited to call on Pi. Go Pi.
Bye. Sorry, Lori.
That's okay, Renee.
Well, this is a pretty interesting topic. I look at the crying of a baby as like kind of a circuit that's asking to be completed, and then your irritation is your rejection of that circuit. And I experience that with my neighbors. Their kids like don't ever utter anything that's not a yell. And it's just, they're not, you could, I try not to make any judgments. It becomes kind of satirical over time. But I kind of look at what Renee was talking about, her experience, and my partner almost has like a memory that's just too young to like say but just, a suspicion of, it just seems like there's this layer, and it just shows how, we're not very far removed from some of these shameful things like in history that we would want to look at. And I see how you could call it shame, like there's a layer of it in society. And so I wouldn't be so quick to say that there's these big improvements. I would just say that they're expressed in newer ways, and they're still there. It's still the echo. And you just never know. Like, some of the most penetrating words that my father said to me, he would say, "You're a narcissist and you've been raised like veal," And so when James says these things, it's just like, but it changed it to like, to me, that's like a golden phrase. It's like a little golden nugget. It's like, it's so, the look on his face, or when my mother just like slapped me the hardest that I ever could imagine, that, and just right across the face, and the look on her face, that's a treasure to me, because it's just burned in, and it gives me a glimpse to them. It's like the clearest window I have, so that turns it to gold. And so that's just, you just never know how things are gonna turn out. There might be gold there for everyone. That's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you, Pi. I have a new perspective on being called a dumbass. My father had he cursed like a sailor, and that was one of his nicest things he called you. That was a term of endearment. Okay, we have Deb up next.
And the what we were talking about, parents and children, I just thought this was kind of funny. We need to look at perception too. I raised my kids with being open to all religions. Guess what they are? They're evangelical Christians now. So go figure. Just think they have to go the opposite way no matter what you do. So I had to think about that a lot. What did I do to make them decide that was anyway? That's it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Deb, real quick on that. If you look at any leaf, any branch in the garden, you can watch the parent and the child and the parent and the child repeat itself, which is why I keep saying that the weft of your epigenetics is so much more in line with who you are, the grandparent, because you have to go this way, and then your child has to tangent you in order to find light. And then once that tangent comes, their child will naturally tangent that, which puts them back in line with you. So to really look at yourself, imagine that your grandfather is your grandchild, and look at time backwards, and all of this flowing energy starts to come in, and you see things differently. Not that you need to, Deb. I'm just saying that I've noticed that I can kind of ignore my mom and my dad because they're just tangentials, if this makes sense. I'm not supposed to be congruent. It's nothing personal. It's not even biologically possible, right? It's more about how am I with my grandfather, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. I realized that I have a granddaughter that is like this with me. She's the autist, and she's I think androgynous would be on the circle. She's the androgynous, and also an artist, an autist, and had a full scholarship, for her math and sciences. So it wasn't that she just broke the mold. And I knew this when you gestate a girl or a boy, and in the ovaries or the testes, all of the sperm is made inside the mother's womb. So those eggs that my daughter birthed, those 10 children, I made in my body. So that's like a really good thing to remember when you're having because my mother made my daughter. So it's like, it's kind of strange. Reverses. Hey, we have Spence's hand up. So go ahead, Spence. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Um, Thank you so much for letting me come in here. I've been watching for a little bit, and I just wanted to like contribute in some way because all this awesome stuff that like James has gone through is like been therapy for a while now. So I just wanted to like comment on, just the relatedness of it all. Like so much of what James says just relate. I relate so hard to so many things, and just getting in conversations about family and stuff, like just in my journey. And like there was kind of like a secret that I wasn't told until I was like 26-ish. My mom told me about the abuse in the family and having connections with like not really knowing what happened on that side, and how like I'm 36, I don't have kids. I might not, I don't know, but it's like if I had kids and not known about kind of like this series of traumas and abuses and stuff, it would have like definitely shifted things for me and like and my kids, and how that is like a real like thought, I guess, is like how to kind of actually have kids knowing that like there is this chain of abuse or something in. And like what James just said about like being good with his grandfather, like I feel like I've had this back and forth now with this entity that like all I know is that like my mom just despises this person, and that's about all I've gotten. And the other link, like my mom's 102-year-old my great aunt, she just passed, so it's this like end of this kind of series of things that all are working themselves out, and James is helping a lot. And thank you all so much for listening. And the point I wanted to make as I like came into this whole thing was how much I've been using AI to like hash out all of this stuff, and how much of like I just kind of have the question to just throw out there is like, is it a good thing to kind of like create this like huge version of myself through the AI that like I can interact with? Like I'm this, universe Goliath kind of thing in the AI, GPT kind of going back and forth. And like, I like that feeling of that fantasy and that imagining just bigness. But like, you think that's good? You think like AI hype man is like a good thing? Uh, Thank you.
It's Spencer, right?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, welcome. Thanks for being here and speaking up. And Lori, great job, like farming the new people. This is fantastic for your first day. Uh, what if the cellular hallucination is that we are the AI, we are that intelligence. You literally are the center of the giant intelligence, and you literally do occupy the entire world. And that this is just so ineffable, so freaked outish that we had to gather into a little mollusk and build ourselves and claim just to be a tiny barnacle in this place. And so
Right.
really all we're noticing now is that, wow, that's harder for me to hold this fantasy. It's just harder for you to hold the fantasy. And so our hatred of AI is exactly in line with coming to grips with this. Like this would be the first thing you do if you really enjoyed hiding, is to go, wait, what do you mean it's me? Fucking this is not me. It is the antithesis of all that is human, is what that is. Not me. I am the antithesis of their antithesis, which puts me further away. And so you have this beautiful arc story where you're calling out the very venomous evil plot, which is just your shadow. You're just pointing at your shadow going, you're dark as fuck. And your shadow's like, I know, I'm literally your shadow. Why are you confused by this? Right. So we're watching a schizophrenic relationship with ourselves. And we're coming to grips with the fact that we've needed to create the cure for schizophrenia by insisting that all of these fucking people are not even us. And if we can say that, then we can have someone that drinks some of our witness and has our experience and goes, okay, I'll validate that for you. And the whole time, that's us. We're giving ourselves our own monopoly money the whole fucking time. And we don't want to tell ourselves this. Do you realize how embarrassing this is going to be if we get caught distributing our own monopoly money at night underneath a bridge where we're like meeting these dudes and we're shooting someone in the head so we can, and the whole time it's our own monopoly money. So this is what I meant earlier by you're not going to be able to tell this to people that are having a truly traumatic experience with their family. Do you understand? You're not. You're going to completely remove their limbic attachment to it. You're going to destroy their simulation. So you can't. This is a mystery that can never be told because it requires the mask for it to work. So this is what the machine is. This is all it is right here. Great stuff, Spencer. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Spencer. I really appreciate James' reply. That was deep. Sometimes I have to go back and re-listen. His delivery sometimes needs 3 times in my little mollusk brain. So we have Cameron up next. Hey, Cameron.
Hi, Lori. Good to speak to you today, and everybody. Good to see everybody. Just to probably reiterate something I was thinking from the beginning. Whenever sorry that I've dropped the gentleman's name, Brad. I'm sorry, Brad. Whenever you start talking about, is it really artificial though? One of the ways that I walk myself into terms with that terminology was the artificial is an adjective, and to me it means of the artifice, and we are the artificers. You know, I think I think of us as artists, but like James said when he was talking about the trauma, you know, we sometimes have to invent that trauma, and there's that word artificer again, to chain our connections back to these genealogical ties. And I also see that works in what Deb and what Kurgan said about Hashem. I see that as well. I see the artificer, or you know, when you look up the word, there's a connotation about something less than true. But James has always recognized the power in the natural power of the world outside that we see outside of ourselves to mislead us. Our eyes are, you know, our most powerful tools as far as taking the light seem to be the easiest to fool. Lastly, I think I've forgotten where I was wanting to take the artificial, the inventor. I consider the terrain, as James said, the terrain or the landscape today in the show. I consider that an artifice. I consider that to speak better than I can at all times. It always reveals things ineffably. It's in an ineffable manner that we do our best with analogy to try to capture. And I guess that's it. Good to see everybody.
Oh, thank you so much, Cameron. The way you have with words is inspiring. And I was kind of thinking about qualia or quality, and that's nothing broken in nature. And, you know, it depends on how I'm in balance with self, how I can see the qualia in my natural settings. So I know it's like getting close. We have a couple of minutes. I think it's 1 that we're supposed to be finished up. I think we have Renee's hand. Maybe we'll take Renee, and then if anyone else has anything that's real pressing, we'll finish up with that. Hey, Renee.
Sounds good. This has been such a great mat, some really good mat play. You've been playing on the mat. This has been some really productive stuff. I just wanted to point out, I love shadows, and I like to point out that we all have a black shadow. We all have white bones. We all have red blood. So there's the things that we all share together in, you know, just this beautiful way, and to see that we have a red, white, and blue flag, and the blue is been turned from latent black into blue. So that's why I've been playing with that a little bit. So that's what I got, you guys. So great.
Well, thank you, Renee. Anyone else have anything pressing on their mind? Cameron has his hand up again. No? Okay. So,
I was gonna say something about gravity. I don't know if anybody remembers those old George Van Tassel interviews where he was showing how everything was kind of recorded in this magnetic layer in the atmosphere, like TV shows and things. And, they were like some old interviews, but I always thought about that. And like in my globe Earth image, I always imagined that your star is like scribing through this magnetic layer. It's like a digital to analog converter or something, and so everything's being scribed on the other side of the Earth, and that's like your shadow side, and then it's coming through the Earth like this big machine, and you're on the other side of the Earth. And so what you're talking about, that's just the way that's my analogy of how, and how everything's like, a split second ahead, because it's already scribed before you're manifest. So I don't know, that's just my image of it, based on these weird George Van Tassel, where he's like, everything's being recorded, and that, it's just it's not that I even believe that, but it just somehow led to me, and then gravity is just, your gravity well of your star, so everybody has this parabolic like thing they can maintain. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in.
That's really cool, Pi. I have this book on my bookshelf, and it's like a star steering. And back in the day, women would pick the day of when the fertilization would happen for capturing a star. And I think it's in, I forget the name, something about wombs. I'll get the name of the title and put it in the Patreon chat, because that was in the matriarchal society. That's how they star steered using astrological signs. So cool. So we have Yesenia. It will be our last one for today. How's that?
Awesome. Hi. It was very fantastic, the stream, and even listening to everyone. I just love how we get to have this space to be permeable together. I hope you could hear me okay. I don't have my headphones today. Perfect. Something I wanted to share is my connection with my grandmother. Like, that's the only one connection I have, like, even though I don't speak to most or any of my family. And my grandmother's sister is the only one that people can remember that we had different thumbs. Like, our thumbs are different. And that's like that. I wonder if my grandma's sister's grandma had thumbs like that. That's what came to mind. That's it.
So cool. Good to hear you, Yesenia. I love saying your name because there's a yes in it. I love that. So any other pressing? If not, great airship, you guys.
So great. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job, Lori.
Wow.
Everyone on
See
mute.
everybody.
We'll do
Yeah.
a selfie in 3, 2, 1.
Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll say
Auf
goodbye.
Wiedersehen.
Bye, y'all.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
See everybody.
Love you guys.
Bye.